You wake up, check your phone, and see a graph going vertical. A coin with a dog on it or a tech stock you've never heard of is up 400% in a week. Your friend, the one who failed math class, just made 6 months' salary in an afternoon. You feel it in your gut, that itch. You think, I'm missing out. I need to get in now. You tell yourself this time is different. This is the future. But deep down, you know the truth. You are chasing a ghost. We like to think we are sophisticated investors. We have algorithms, data, and charts. But the human brain hasn't had a software update in 50,000 years. We are still herd animals. When the herd runs, we run. This isn't a modern glitch. It's an ancient feature. To understand why we keep destroying our own wealth, we have to look back at the wealthiest nation on earth in 1636, where the smartest people alive lost everything over a flower. To really get this, you have to understand where we are. This is the Dutch Golden Age. Amsterdam in the 1630s wasn't just a city, it was the center of the universe. It was New York, Silicon Valley, and London all rolled into one. The Dutch East India Company was flooding their canals with money from the spice trade. When you have a society with too much cash and nothing to spend it on, people start looking for status. Enter the tulip. This wasn't native to Europe. It was a diplomat's gift from the Ottoman Empire. It was exotic, fragile, and impossibly intense in color. At first, it was just a flex. If you had a garden full of tulips, it meant you were elite. It was the Ferrari of the 17th century. But then, nature threw a curveball. A specific virus, known as the mosaic virus, infected the bulbs. Instead of killing the flowers, it broke the color patterns into beautiful, unpredictable flames of white and red or purple and yellow. These broken tulips were stunning, and more importantly, they were incredibly rare. You couldn't manufacture them. You couldn't force them to grow. You just had to get lucky. Suddenly, the tulip wasn't just a flower anymore, it was a lottery ticket. The rarity created a psychological frenzy. Refined merchants stopped caring about how the flower looked in their garden and started caring about what it could sell for next week. The price began to creep up. First, it was reasonable. Then, it was expensive. And then, it became completely detached from reality. The flower had ceased to be a biological object and had become a financial vehicle. The trap was set, and the entire nation was about to step right into it. The problem with tulips is that they are biological. They bloom in the spring, and you can only dig up the bulbs in the summer. For a normal market, this is a disaster. You can't wait 9 months to make a trade when you have gold burning a hole in your pocket. The Dutch, being the financial geniuses of the era, found a workaround. They stopped trading the bulbs and started trading the rights to the bulbs. This was the birth of the futures market. They created notarized contracts, slips of paper that said, I promise to buy this bulb for 1,000 guilders when it is dug up in June. Suddenly, the season didn't matter. You could trade these papers in December, January, or February. The physical flower was still frozen deep underground, unaware that its value was doubling every 24 hours above the surface. The Dutch called this wind handle the wind trade. It was a perfect name because there was no weight to it. No product was moving hands. It was just paper and promises flying around taverns. And that is where the trading actually happened. They didn't have a Wall Street. They had the back rooms of local inns. These colleges were fueled by gin, smoke, and adrenaline. This is when the mania mutated. At the start, it was just rich merchants. But once it became about paper, the barrier to entry collapsed. You didn't need a garden, you just needed a pen. Weavers, chimney sweeps, and farmers abandoned their actual jobs to sit in the tavern and trade wind. They mortgaged their cottages to buy a contract for a single bulb, convinced they could flip it for a castle by spring. The economy stopped producing goods and started producing debt. It was a massive, decentralized casino where everyone was winning, and nobody stopped to ask where the money was actually coming from. By the winter of 1636, the fever broke the thermometer. Prices weren't just high, they were offensively high. To give you a sense of scale, a skilled carpenter in Amsterdam, a guy who knew how to build ships and houses, might earn 250 guilders a year if he worked every single day. That was a decent living. He could feed a family on that. Now, look at the Semper Augustus. This was the holy grail of tulips. White petals with blood-red streaks. At the height of the madness, a single bulb of the Semper Augustus was valued at 10,000 guilders. Do the math. That is 40 years of wages for a skilled tradesman. 40 years of sweat, labor, and sore backs traded for a dirty root that fits in the palm of your hand. It was enough money to buy a grand mansion on the most fashionable canal in the city, fully furnished, with a coach house and a garden. There are records of people bartering their entire existence for these things. One famous receipt lists the goods exchanged for a single, slightly less valuable bulb: 2 loads of wheat, 4 loads of rye, 4 fat oxen, 8 fat pigs, 12 fat sheep, 2 hogsheads of wine, 4 barrels of beer, 2 tons of butter, 1,000 pounds of cheese, a bed, a suit of clothes, and a silver drinking cup. Think about that list. That isn't just money, that is survival, that is food for a village, that is warmth and clothing. People were trading the literal necessities of life for a speculative asset because they truly believed that next month some imaginary emperor or foreign prince would show up and pay double. The logic of value had completely dissolved. Greed had eaten the rational mind of an entire country. Bubbles are funny things. They take years to inflate, inch by inch, fueled by optimism and greed. But when they burst, they don't leak slowly, they explode. And unlike the rise, the fall doesn't happen over years, it happens in hours. For the Dutch, the world ended on a Tuesday. It was February 1637 in the city of Haarlem. It was a routine auction at a local tavern. The room was packed with the usual crowd, merchants, weavers, and speculators, all sweating in their heavy wool coats, clutching their contracts, ready to buy. A florist stepped up to the block and offered a pound of bulbs at the standard market rate. He waited for the shout. Usually, there would be a dozen hands in the air instantly, but this time there was nothing, just silence, the shuffling of feet, the clearing of a throat. He lowered the price, still nothing. In that split second, the collective hallucination broke. It was like waking up from a trance. Every person in that room looked around and simultaneously realized the same terrifying truth. There are no more buyers. The greater fool had finally failed to show up. Panic is faster than greed. Word spread from Haarlem to Amsterdam before the sun went down. The sell orders flooded in. Everyone wanted out. They were desperate to offload their contracts for 50% off, then 90% off, then 99% off. But you can't sell if nobody's buying. The liquidity had vanished. By the end of the week, bulbs that had been worth a mansion were being sold for the price of a common onion. The paper wealth of the entire nation evaporated. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't get transferred to a bank. It just ceased to exist. Rich merchants found themselves holding contracts that required them to pay thousands of guilders for a flower that was now worthless. They were legally obligated to buy ruin. The courts were flooded. The taverns emptied out. The golden age had hit a brick wall. Why did this happen? How could a nation of rational, mathematical geniuses convince themselves that a root was worth a fortune? The answer lies in a specific economic trap known as the greater fool theory. This theory states that it is perfectly rational to buy an asset for way more than it is worth, even if you know it is overpriced, as long as you can find a greater fool to sell it to at an even higher price. The Dutch merchants weren't stupid. Many of them knew deep down that a flower bulb wasn't actually worth a canal house. But they weren't buying the bulb for its beauty. They were buying the momentum. They were betting that the mania would last just one more day, one more week. They were betting on the existence of another buyer down the line who was greedier and more desperate than they were. The problem with the greater fool theory is that it is mathematically impossible to sustain. It requires an infinite supply of fools. Eventually, you run out of people. The moment the supply of new buyers dries up, the chain snaps. The last person to buy is left holding the bag. In 1637, that last person wasn't just one guy. It was thousands of people simultaneously realizing that they were the punchline of the joke. This is the danger of FOMO, fear of missing out. It bypasses your logic center and hits your survival instinct. It makes you terrified that everyone else is getting rich while you stay poor. It forces you to buy at the top, right when the music is about to stop. The tulip crash teaches us that price and value are not the same thing. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. The price of the Semper Augustus was 10,000 guilders. The value was 0. When the hype died, the price simply returned to match the value. Gravity always wins. You might be sitting there thinking, well, that's a funny story about some crazy Dutch people in funny hats. You might feel safe because you would never trade your house for a flower bulb. But you are wrong. You would. And you probably have. The most terrifying thing about tulip mania isn't that it happened once. It's that it happens constantly. The specific asset changes, but the human behavior is identical. We swap out the tulip bulb for new vehicles of speculation, but the engine is always the same. Greed, FOMO, and the delusion that this time is different. Fast forward to 1720, and it was the South Sea bubble. People were buying shares in a company that did absolutely nothing, just because the price was going up. Fast forward to 1929, and shoeshine boys were giving stock tips before the Great Depression. Fast forward to 1999. And people were pouring millions into .com companies that had no revenue, just a website ending in .com. Fast forward to 2008, and the tulip was a subprime mortgage bond, a piece of paper backed by houses that people couldn't afford. And look at today. We have people buying digital pictures of rocks or coins named after dogs, convinced they are investing. We haven't evolved. The technology in our pockets is futuristic, but the lizard brain controlling our wallet is prehistoric. We are still seeking the quick win. We are still terrified of being left behind while our neighbor gets rich. The Dutch Golden Age proves that intelligence is not a shield against madness. Isaac Newton, one of the smartest men to ever live, lost a fortune in the South Sea bubble. He later said, "I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people." If Newton couldn't spot the top, neither can you. The only way to win the game of the greater fool is to refuse to play it. The history of money is a history of hallucinations. We assign value to things, shells, metals, paper, or code, and when that faith breaks, the wealth vanishes. If this story made you look at your own portfolio a little differently, you're in the right place. Most finance channels tell you what to buy. Here at Economic History, we tell you why markets break. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss episode I want to hear from you. What is the modern day tulip? Is it crypto, AI stocks, or real estate? Let me know in the comments below.